I created endless scenarios of burning the world to the ground, endless scenarios of tearing everything apart. I danced with the devil. In my mind, I was Queen Dagmar, as if everything I've done in my life has been prepping me for this moment.
Stick around because my very special guest, my daughter, who looks a little bit like me, will be coming on to talk about her new poetry book. It's called Things We Don't Tell. And I'll let her explain why she named the book that. But this young lady has accomplished so much in life. And I'm really excited that she finally decided to um, publish her poetry book because hey, girl. Yeah,
Hi, hi.
yeah. So she had been kind of secretly writing poetry for the last few years, and I didn't realize. And then we got to talking, and she said she had about 13 or 14 poems. I was like, why don't we go ahead and put those in a book? And surprisingly, she agreed. And because these are very personal stories, which is why we call it a memoir in poetry, because each of the poems in the book correlates with something that's happened throughout her life. And when I say that she's accomplished a lot, she has accomplished a lot. 2017 Miss New Orleans City Queen for National All American Miss. She is a cum laude graduate of the Clark Atlanta University. She is a former preschool teacher. She now works for the federal government, and she's also in the Queen's Court for National American Miss. What year was that? 2023.
Yep, that was 2023.
See, so she has a lot going on. So I just thought it was very poignant that she decided to share herself in this way. So without further ado, I'm gonna let Beautiful introduce herself to all of you.
Okay, well, hello everyone. As my mother said, I'm beautiful. I'm 25. I currently work TSA at the Reagan Airport. And like she said, I've been writing poetry for the last few years. I started in college on a class that I was taking with someone I was dating at the time, and we wanted to have one class together, so we decided to do a poetry class. And that's how I met Queen Sheba, who was kind of the inspiration behind a lot of my poems. And it was a good way for me to like kind of open up and express myself in a way that wasn't just what I had already done in pageants, which was singing or trying to get into dancing. I feel like of all of the things that I tried throughout my life, I think poetry is what really stuck.
So first first of all, you mentioned Queen Sheba in your book. Can you tell me why she was such an inspiration to you?
Yeah, Queen Sheba was invited to teach a class at my school by the school board. She's a master poet, and it was the first time we had ever had a poetry class at my school. And so all of it was a trial run, is what I like to think of it as. Um, throughout the semester, we practiced writing our own raps about ourselves. We focused on different kinds of poems and tried to write our own based on the examples that she would give. She even organized a spoken word for us at the end of the semester so that way we could like tell the rest of the school what we had been writing. And I even got one of my poems published in the CAU review.
Yeah, I remember when you announced that to the family that you had gotten published in the CAU review, which is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, yeah, that was a really cool time for me because I think I was more of a kind of a fall in the background type of person when I was in college. So everything I did in her class was what helped me come out of my shell now.
Well, that's awesome. Oh, I forgot to mention that you were also Miss Congeniality in the Miss Phi Beta Sigma pageant.
Yeah, I think that was around the same time I was in this class actually.
Yes. Well, Mark says congratulations on the release of your poetry book. And he said his first book was also a poetry book.
Oh, okay.
So, what what do you think it was that just really attracted you to writing poetry? Because, and the reason why I ask is I don't even know if you remember what, but when you were a lot younger, you used to write your own songs. You didn't call them poetry; you were just writing songs.
Yeah, I remember that. When we were going to church, I think after the church service, I would be like hit with inspiration to try to write my own church song. And I don't know, I think in my head, I was gonna be like Alicia Keys one day. And I was gonna like learn how to play piano too. And I was gonna like be full on Alicia Keys and take on her legacy one of these days.
You can still do that.
I don't know. I don't know. Because she got up there in the Super Bowl singing with Usher. I don't think I would have been able to do all that.
Well, tell us about things we don't tell.
Okay. Well, I titled it Things We Don't Tell because I think every poem in here was something I was like too scared to talk about at some point. Or even if I wasn't too scared to talk about it with someone, I didn't know who to tell about it. You know, when you kind of feel like you're just rambling, you're just ranting on, and you're like, don't nobody want to hear me complain. That's kind of how a lot of my poems started out. It's like, well, I don't want to be the person that complains about everything. Maybe I'll just write it out, and if somebody's interested, I'll tell it about it one day.
Okay, so now were you a little nervous about showing me the poems because I had never read any of your poetry before?
I would say maybe a little bit, but you know, I'm an adult now. I think I think when I was young, I was like what, 18, 19 years old when I first started writing poetry. And a lot of it was I had things I wanted to say. I just didn't know how to articulate it. So I'm like, well, I'm not gonna start a conversation I don't know how to finish.
Right, understandable.
Hmm.
Okay, so what would you say is your signature poem in the book, or what is your favorite poem in the book?
I think my favorite poem in the book would have to be Pariah. Because
Interesting.
Pariah is all about how I would meet people, I would go on dates, and I just don't feel like I'm connecting. Or it was just something I felt like was off about that person. And I thought, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just not emotionally available enough to like pursue anything with anyone right now. And I think a lot of the poem was me thinking to myself on, is there like something wrong with me? And then towards the end, I say, you know what? No, there's nothing wrong with me. Okay. I'm not going to say it's everybody else, but I think what I'm going through is completely normal for me and anyone else who might be in that same mindset. And I shouldn't talk down about myself just because I'm not doing something that someone else is doing. Just because someone else is going on dates and meeting people and I'm not, that doesn't mean that I'm a problem. It just means there's something I need to work out and that maybe I just haven't finished working it out yet.
Wow, that's some really good self reflection and self accountability. Um,
Hmm.
because not many people will want to admit that to themselves.
And that's kind of the basis behind a lot of my poems. It was, I think my early days in college was me thinking maybe there's just something wrong with me. And just over time, I put myself into a depression because I wasn't talking about any of it with anyone. I was just sitting in the feelings and I didn't know how to express any of it. And that's why I go back to Queen Sheba when she taught me how to like voice some of what was going on in my own head. And then I did eventually get into a little bit of therapy, and that's when I started doing a lot more self reflections. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not the problem. All of these people we have in this world, I'm not the only one going through what I'm going through right now. Like maybe it's time for me to start opening up. And as soon as I started opening up, I realized, wow, there's so many other people who have the same mindset that I have.
Anything you want to? Is there a poem you might want to share with us? Give us a little sneak peek.
I mean, if you want, like, okay, okay. All right. I'll read the first poem.
Okay. Which one is the first one?
The first poem is Heartbreak, and I'm gonna read that one because I believe that one's the most recent poem.
Okay.
All right. When opportunity arose, I chose to dance with the idea of being the villain. I created endless scenarios of burning the world to the ground, endless scenarios of tearing everything apart. I danced with the devil. In my mind, I was Queen Dagmar, as if everything I've done in my life has been prepping me for this moment. And as the Queen of Hell, I was determined to not stop until the world fell. However, my two left feet and both sides of my brain and the will I have left forced me to stop standing on his feet.